There's a man who parks his car in the same lot as his colleagues every morning. 2013 Toyota Camry. Faded paint, a small scratch on the rear bumper that he never bothered fixing. His coworkers assume he's doing okay, nothing more. They invite him to happy hour and don't expect him to pick up the tab. Nobody thinks twice about him. What they don't know is that he has $3.8 million in index funds. His mortgage has been paid off for 6 years. His kids' university funds are fully loaded. He could walk out of the office today and never come back. He chooses the Camry on purpose. This isn't a quirky story about one unusual person. Research from The Millionaire Next Door, one of the most comprehensive studies ever conducted on actual millionaires, found that the median price millionaires pay for their vehicles is just under $32,000. A Canadian Experian study found that the majority of high-income earners drive Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords, not BMWs, not Mercedes. Meanwhile, a significant percentage of people earning under $80,000 own luxury vehicles. They're spending $70,000 on cars while making $55,000 a year. One group looks wealthy, the other group actually is wealthy, and these are rarely the same people. This video isn't about being cheap, it's about understanding something that most people spend their entire lives never figuring out. Looking ordinary might be the most powerful financial strategy you ever adopt. And once you see the data behind it, you'll never look at a parking lot the same way again. There are two completely different games being played with money. Most people don't realize there are two games. They assume everyone is playing the same one. Game one is the visibility game. The goal is to signal success through consumption, a nicer car, a bigger house, designer clothes, expensive vacations. Each one is a move in this game. Each one communicates something to the people around you. I've made it. I'm successful. I belong at this level. Game two is the wealth game. The goal is to convert income into permanent financial security. Every dollar not spent on visibility is a dollar that can compound over 30 years. The moves in this game are invisible by definition. Index fund contributions, mortgage paydowns, RRSP maximizations. Nobody sees them at the dinner party. Here's the brutal reality. These two games directly compete with each other. Every dollar you spend winning the visibility game is a dollar you cannot use to win the wealth game. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying actual millionaires across North America. Their findings dismantled every assumption most people carry about what wealthy people look like. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent. They built it themselves. Half of them have lived in the same house for more than 20 years. They are more likely to drive a Ford than a foreign luxury brand. The researchers found them disproportionately clustered in middle-class neighborhoods, not in affluent communities. This surprised even the researchers who expected the opposite. The explanation is simple. High-income professionals tend to devote their income to luxury goods and status items. They're playing the visibility game aggressively. Actual wealth builders play an entirely different game, and they've done the math on why. Let me show you what the math actually says, because once you see these numbers clearly, the choice between the two games becomes obvious. The difference between a $30,000 vehicle and an $80,000 vehicle invested over 25 years at 7% annual returns is approximately $270,000. That's the real price of the luxury car, not $50,000, $270,000. Apply the same logic to a kitchen renovation. Someone who spends $70,000 renovating their kitchen has a beautiful kitchen. Someone who invests that same $70,000 in a diversified index fund has approximately $380,000 20 years later. Same dollars, completely different outcomes. One outcome you can show people, the other one you can live on. This is what researchers call opportunity cost. And most people dramatically underestimate it because they only see the purchase price, never the compounding potential of that money over time. The data on real wealth accumulators confirms this pattern consistently. A 2025 Empower study found that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, still shop deals, and deliberately avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million mark. They understand that the habits that built the wealth are the same habits that preserve it. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in Omaha in 1958 for $31,500. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years while building Amazon. Mark Zuckerberg was regularly spotted in an Acura TSX. Larry Page, co-founder of Google, drove a Toyota Prius. These aren't people who can't afford better. They're people who've decided that looking wealthy isn't worth the cost of actually being wealthy. Here's something most financial content never covers, and it's one of the most compelling arguments for invisible wealth. Looking wealthy makes you a target. High net worth individuals are significantly more likely to experience identity theft than the general population. Security experts call these whaling attacks. Meticulously crafted operations where attackers assemble profiles from social media, data breaches, and publicly available information. They impersonate trusted advisors, private bankers, or family members to extract sensitive financial information or authorize fraudulent transfers. The Federal Trade Commission reported that Americans lost over $10 billion to fraud in a single year. Investment fraud alone accounted for billions of that total, with sophisticated schemes specifically targeting visibly affluent individuals. Looking wealthy advertises exactly what you have. Looking ordinary protects it, but the social dynamics are equally important. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford expensive dinners. When you wear designer clothes, colleagues expect you to pick up the tab. When you live in an affluent neighborhood, the baseline spending of everyone around you silently inflates your own expectations. The person driving the ordinary car maintains access to authentic relationships. Nobody treats them differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody expects them to pay more than their share. Nobody resents them for having more. This social invisibility provides something money literally cannot buy. Relationships based on who you are, not what you have. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created two categories, not based on income, but based on behavior. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs are under accumulators of wealth. These categories have nothing to do with how much you earn. A janitor earning $50,000 can be more of a PAW than a surgeon earning $600,000. Spending habits determine the category, not salary. Here's the formula. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income. Divide by 10. That number is what your net worth should be right now. A 40-year-old earning $120,000 in Canada should have approximately $480,000 in net worth. Those below this threshold are under accumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. UAWs live well. They're often highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually. They just don't practice it behaviorally. Their spending is driven by what researchers call the better than theory. Better car than the neighbor, better watch than the colleague, better vacation than the sibling. These choices are called million-dollar choices because if the money had been invested instead, the person would have over $1 million more. The math is not complicated, the behavior is. Every financial transaction you make is influenced by how wealthy the other party perceives you to be. A car dealer treats someone in an old Civic differently than someone in a current year Mercedes. A contractor quotes differently based on the driveway they're pulling into. A service provider calibrates pricing based on perceived ability to pay. Warren Buffett once noted that he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he was wealthy. His modest appearance gave him negotiating leverage that flashy consumption would have completely eliminated. Looking wealthy invites premium pricing across every purchase you make for the rest of your life. Looking ordinary receives standard pricing. Over a lifetime of purchases, this differential accumulates into serious money. The employment dynamics work the same way. The quietly wealthy employee has an extraordinary position. The security of not needing the job while appearing to need it. They can take risks that financially desperate employees cannot take. They can negotiate from strength while appearing to negotiate from need. This is a genuine competitive advantage, and it costs nothing except choosing the Accord over the Audi. Research on hedonic adaptation explains something important about visible wealth. Every new purchase delivers a spike of happiness and then fades. The BMW provides a thrill for weeks, then becomes just a car. The designer watch impresses for months, then becomes invisible to the person wearing it. Each visible purchase delivers diminishing emotional returns while permanently reducing financial capital. The treadmill never stops. Invisible wealth works completely differently. A growing net worth provides constant, steady security, and that security doesn't adapt away. The person knows they could handle any emergency without crisis. They know they could walk away from any situation. They know their future is protected regardless of what happens next. This background security changes everything. Decisions become less fear-driven. Professional risks become possible because failure isn't catastrophic. Relationships become less complicated by financial desperation. Sleep becomes less interrupted by financial anxiety. The visible wealthy person experiences constant pressure to maintain their display. Every year requires new purchases to signal continued success. The treadmill never stops. The invisible wealthy person has opted out of the display game entirely, and their financial security compounds quietly in the background year after year without anyone noticing. Let me tell you about Kevin, because his story makes all of this concrete. Kevin is 54 years old. He works as a senior project coordinator for a logistics company in Mississauga. He's earned between $78,000 and $102,000 for most of his career, solid but nothing extraordinary by any measure. His car is a 2015 Honda Accord with 180,000 kilometers on it. He maintains it meticulously. His house is a 3-bedroom, detached in a quiet neighborhood in Brampton. His clothes are clean and professional. Nobody would look twice at him. At 27, Kevin automated $500 per month to his RRSP and committed to never touching it. Every raise, he split the increase, half toward living better, half toward investments. Over time, his automated contribution grew quietly to $1,400 per month. When colleagues upgraded to new cars, Kevin repaired his. When neighbors renovated kitchens, Kevin made his work. When markets crashed in 2020, Kevin didn't check his investments for 4 months, by which point the recovery was well underway. His colleagues used to make gentle jokes about his car. He laughed along and changed the subject every time. At 54, Kevin has $2.1 million in his RRSP and TFSA combined. His house has been paid off for 3 years. He has a non-registered investment account with another $400,000. He could retire right now, comfortably, for the rest of his life. Nobody he works with knows this, and Kevin has no interest in changing that. The 2013 Toyota Camry in the parking lot represents something that its owner's colleagues will likely never understand. It represents a choice to value compound growth over social approval, a decision to build security rather than display status, an understanding arrived at early and maintained consistently that looking wealthy and being wealthy are not just different things but competing things. The research is overwhelming and consistent. The median millionaire drives a practical car, lives in a modest neighborhood, and spends nothing on status signals that don't deliver lasting value. The practical advantages of invisible wealth compound across every dimension of life. It protects your assets from people who target visible affluence. It preserves authentic relationships. It gives you negotiating leverage in every transaction. It provides psychological security that doesn't adapt away. And it frees up capital that compounds silently into genuine financial freedom. The cost is minimal. Some people will underestimate you. Some people will assume you have less than you do. These are features, not bugs. Because the goal was never to impress strangers. The goal was always freedom, and freedom is built quietly. In ordinary cars, in modest kitchens, in RRSP contributions that nobody at the dinner party will ever see. Wealth isn't about what you show, it's about what you keep. If this reframes something for you, subscribe. Every week, the math and the behaviors that actually build financial freedom. No noise, just clarity.